Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Welcome to Wednesday Wham. We have a guest with us tonight. But first, I'll do a very brief introduction of myself. My name is Barb Kelberg. I have been an inker for 38 years, colorist and writer for the last 7. And today I was working on issue number 7 of Divinity. I actually made some headway. I procrastinate so bad on that. I'll write today. Well, I'll write tomorrow. I actually sat down and got some work done. Rob.
I'll try to make this brief. I tend to go overboard. I'm Rob Davis. I've been in the industry of just about the same length of time as Barb has.
Probably 6 months.
Started out as a letterer, became an inker, then a penciler, and kind of stuck with the penciling deal. Worked for Marvel, DC, Malibu, Innovation, and a bunch of other folks drawing everything from the ancient past Merlin all the way to far-flung future with Star Trek characters and all kinds of stuff in between. Recently hooked up with, well, what's it been, 5 years now? I've been with Silverline doing a little bit of stuff here and there, and self-published some of my own work. And having lots of fun doing it since I've retired from real work and do this now full time.
And
Javier! I'm glad. Yeah, that fills out the squares.
There we go.
Square gets a circle.
You can see my messy office now. Huh?
That's right. All right, Javier, introduce yourself briefly.
Oh, I'm Martin's friend. Hi, Martin. How you doing?
Yes.
Well, I'm Javier Lugo. I'm an artist, as you can tell from that mess behind me. Avid comic book collector. I stopped about 2 years ago because, finances. Comic book penciler, inker part-time. I do pinups, and I'm currently working on a plethora of things. And I think Martin is about to show something.
Yeah, you have a piece
Javier
of
did this for
me.
Yes, it's catching the light a little funky, but off my screen. But yeah, I keep it in my office. I'm going to get it framed and put it up with the other pieces soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Very good.
So yeah, I help my friends make comics. I help them with the free covers and sell their books when I go to conventions. And I'm a big proponent and supporter of indie comics everywhere. I'm based out of Tampa, Florida, and that's where I range and I rove. Yeah, I'm here to make comics excellent as much as I can.
That's right.
Awesome.
And our special guest tonight, Martin, and can you say your last name for me?
Pierro.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't going to butcher it.
Okay, it used to have a T on the end of it. It used to be Pierro. It's French. But when we came into the U.S., they cut the T off. So
yeah, same with my last name. It should have been Kohlberg. But
it's an American thing. We have a thing with T. So
well, we had lazy people checking people in coming from across the sea.
Right.
Yep. They were very lazy.
Martin, Martin began his entertainment career at the age of 12. We're going to get into that because I'm very.
Oh, you got my biography up.
I do. And he is also the owner, publisher of Cosmic Times, and I want to talk about that.
Yes, ma'am.
And you brought that from being an underground publisher of black and white comics into an international comic book publisher, and I want to talk about that too. Ooh, coming full circle.
And I've had the pleasure of working with Javier too. So
yes, and you have quite a few books out there. I'm going to touch on one of them tonight.
Okay, you can touch them all, don't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna touch on Turbocharged Teenager.
Okay.
So, well, you want another one?
No, whatever. That's fine. I don't even need to talk about me. I'll talk about you guys. I talk about Star Trek with Rob all night if he wants to.
No, yeah, we can absolutely.
We get off on tangents like that, so we have to be careful. We used
Hi,
to,
Pops.
007 would come up and stuff like that, and we would go off on tangents. We have left
Love it
that
all.
one
I love
alone for a
007
while,
too.
so now that I brought it up.
Thank you.
TK O'Neill says, "Hey guys, I'm loving Arthur Martin." So
Thank
you got
you.
a fan.
Cool.
You have a fan.
All right. I mean,
Well,
right
there's
there.
one
That's
fan right
one.
here.
Yeah. Oh, two.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So the fan club.
12 years old?
What?
12 years old when you got into the entertainment industry?
Okay, I put out a fanzine. I started putting out fanzines. I got into comics, collecting comics really hard, 12, 13 years old. And I started talking to local comic shops. And there really, outside of comic books buyer's guide is before Wizard. There really wasn't comic book news. And they would give me what wasn't previews at the time, but it was the solicits for all the upcoming books, and I would write articles about it. I would interview creators like Martin O'Dell and the guy who did Mr. Monster. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and a bunch of other Kid Mitteroni and things like that. And I put out a fanzine called Cosmic. It was originally called Metropolis Times after the store I was going at. And then he's like, well, you don't should name it after me. You should have your own thing. So we called it Cosmic Times. And I put out a bunch of fanzines back in the 80s. And then I discovered girls, and that put a stop to that pretty quick. I've been in and out. I've been in and out of comics my whole life. I love comics. I think it's one of the most unique mediums there are. It's unlike anything else. For a while I wanted to make comics, but then I wanted to become a Disney animator. That was what I was going to do. Become a Disney animator. I was going to go to Ringling School of Art and become an animator, and I got talked out of it by a guy working at Disney who said, you don't want to do it when you first start off, it's just going to be doing in-between work. And I ended up getting into television and film production, left comics behind. I still collected here and there. And then I ended up having to leave the creative business to pay for my family. You know how that goes. I was doing IT at a law. Yeah. I was doing IT at a law firm, which isn't the most creative job in the world. So to get my creative juices going, I started, I met some guys at MegaCon, I think it was 06 or 07, and they kind of, Raven Gregory and guys like that kind of convinced me that I should, maybe try my hand at this. I met these guys at this company called Wham. I don't know if you've heard of them, and realized printing the books isn't that difficult. So I decided I'd try my hand at making comics, put my first book out in 2009 and haven't looked back. Ended up leaving the workforce just before we got into right after we got into Diamond. Like, we made it. So I quit my day job and I've been doing this full time ever since. I also run a comic convention that kind of balances out, keeps me in the business. And I also do behind the scenes work for some comic shops. So everything I do now, my life is all comics.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, that is actually
not always great for the bank account, but good for me. Yeah.
Well, no. It can be temporarily, but it's never.
Yes.
It seems like never long term.
That's the one thing. When I got out of comics, it was because the bottom fell out, and my husband's like, we got to pay the mortgage, we have to pay insurance, blah blah. You need to get a steady job.
Yeah.
Which I did. I kept my toe in, but I got a real muggle job. And then when I got back in, he goes like, okay, but you're not taking any money from the family budget. You got to make it, anything you make on comics, you can put back into comics. So I started doing shows, and that's where I make the majority of the money that I pay for my talent, and all my other stuff is through the shows that I do. It certainly is selling my books.
Well, at the shows, is it commissions? Is that where the money comes from?
Things
like that?
Yeah, prints, original art, the books, Silverline books, stuff like that.
I will say, when I started doing this, and like I said, my first show was 2009 MegaCon, and I was selling out. It seemed early on it was easier to make money selling comics at shows than it is now. It's just it's gotten more crowded. I blame Kablam for that. And like I said, there's so much more going at the cons. It's just people aren't looking for those new books like they used to back in the day.
There is.
I say back in the day, 15 years ago, but
yeah.
What really impresses me though is that at the age of 12, you were already focused and ambitious enough to start your own fanzine. That's quite spectacular, actually.
Yeah, it was. And it turned out in a weird circumstances, we put it out for people because we shipped them to, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 shops. We didn't have any distribution. We just called shops. You want to order them? And they were, I think, 50 cents each, and we sold them for 25 to the stores. It was just printed on a copier with, fold the paper, like it was an ash can. And in a weird circumstance, there was a girl I knew in 5th grade, but some guy sent artwork, this Conan drawing we put on the cover of one of our issues, and it turns out she was his friend. And we, Heidi Javier. I reconnected with Heidi, and then he emailed us one day. He goes, "Hey, are you the same Martin that did Cosmic Times?" Well, yeah, that's what I do. And he's like, "I sent you artwork back when I was like 13, and you published it for me." Like, small world. Everything connects.
It's where the stuff that you did 20, 30 years ago, boom, it's back in your face again.
Sure.
Sometimes for the better, sometimes for worse.
That's why I try not to leave too many bodies behind.
Yeah.
Well, what was it about comics at that young age that drew you in?
I'll tell you, when I was, my grandfather used to work for a company called FEC News. They would stock 7-Elevens and stuff, and miraculously covers would come off some of these books, and he'd bring them home to me before I could even read or anything. And I developed a love for comics. I learned how to read with Star Wars and Micronauts comics in the 70s. I was big into those licensed comics, Shogun Warriors. If I could have a toy of it and read a comic, that was the most incredible thing to me. And I just never, I have a box in my garage my grandmother kept of when I was like 5, 6, 7, drawing my own little comics and giving them to my grandparents and stuff. So there's Wally the Alien and all this other stuff I used to try to do when I was a little kid. So it's always been in my DNA. And like I said, I've worked at every aspect. I helped cut a record. I did post-production. I authored DVDs. I worked in Hollywood films. I worked on television. I worked on stage. I've done everything in the entertainment industry, and I've come back to what I started at before I even knew what I was going to do with my life. And here we are, just spinning our wheels now.
When the comic book bug bites, you're infected for life. Absolutely.
Yeah. I tried to get out. It didn't work.
I will say what really helped pull me back in, besides the going to MegaCon, and there was Jeffrey Kaufman. He was one of the guys that got me into it. It was around the time Marvel did the original Civil War comic, and I picked it up, and it was, that first issue was just so cinematic and so amazing. That kind of helped my brain bridge from screenwriting to comic book writing. And if I felt comics had kind of started to grow up a little bit with that, and that kind of pulled me into it. Like, hey, we can tell the kind of stories I want to tell. And also, it's weird not where we sit now in the industry. At that point in 2007, 2008, it was after all the speculator craziness, and we had gone back to comics only having one cover, and now they have 50 covers again. We've gone back. We didn't remember our lessons. Yeah, and it was all about story. We're going to write the best stories possible, get the best art possible. Now it's, let's slap 1,000 covers on it.
Yeah, this whole Ultimates thing is just insane. With, every retailer's got their own cover.
You mean the Absolute?
Absolute, yeah.
The Absolute, yeah. Sorry, the Absolute.
But they're making a mint on it. They flip them on Whatnot. They make a fortune doing it. So as long as people keep throwing money at it, they're going to keep doing it.
But that doesn't work forever, as we know.
Oh my gosh,
90s.
That's off my website. Look at that.
Yeah.
Hey, Javier's on that page too. If you hit talent, you'll find his picture on there.
Oh, well, now I gotta.
Oh, I'm listening to talent. That's a first. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Let's see. Scroll on down. That's everybody I've worked with. Actually, it's not. I haven't finished populating all the people back on it.
There
he is right there. Look at that handsome guy. Yeah, and I have links to
it is a small world, people.
That's one thing I try to do. If I work with somebody, because I know I don't pay top dollar, I try to make sure that I get their links on my site. I try to push them out as best I can. If I see Javier's doing a show, I'll share it out. If I see anybody I've worked with does a show, I try to.
Thank you.
Because
thank you so much.
I mean, I know you're not living on the residuals from our books, so it's if I could help you in any way to push you forward. Actually, I was talking to Travis about you at Heroes Con, Javier. So hopefully you'll get more work from him too.
I hope so. I just delivered 5 pages last week, and I know Travis is on vacation. Hope he has a good time in Colorado.
Yeah.
Well, TK O'Neill.
These are all the books I worked on.
Mentioned Arthur, and I see that you have that on your website.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this book.
This is what I started the company with. It's the very first book. If you look at it, it's really rough compared to what we're doing now. But it was actually a television pitch. My girlfriend at the time, who later became my ex-wife, who we're kind of friendly now, we had this pitch for a television pilot. This is what I used to do. Had a pitch for a television pilot of King Arthur returns to a post-apocalyptic England. It was Mad Max meets King Arthur, and we wrote it in a way that it was budget friendly, so it was all shot in the desert and all that sort of stuff. And when I went to start up Cosmic Times, I was just going through I had written a 6-issue miniseries that I did nothing with. And so I revisited that script, the concept for Arthur, and since budget's not an issue, I put it in a forest. I came up with the concept that England has grown. So after the apocalypse, Great Britain has grown over again, and it's like the Dark Ages once more. And according to the legend of King Arthur, he was supposed to return after he got healed from Avalon when England needed him again, or his land needed him again. And so it needs him now. He returns, reclaims his sword and reclaims his land in the first 3 issues, and then the second 3 issues we introduce some new plot points.
That sounds
and a love interest.
Awesome, actually. I love post-apocalyptic stories.
Yeah,
And
but
then-
I didn't do it in the original pitch. It was like the nuclear war, because it was I think Thunderdome had just come out. In this, society just destroyed itself. It wasn't a war. It wasn't any great thing. It was just corrupt media, corrupt politicians, corrupt everything, just corrupted the world, and it fell apart. Prolific?
Timely are we?
You know what? I wrote it 15 years ago. It was timely then too. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So what's Deep Space Tragedy?
Okay, Deep Space Tragedy is the brainchild of my buddy Mike Wagoner, who unfortunately had a stroke, so he's not doing comics right now, but he's healing. He's going to get back. He's actually the lead scenic designer at, I think, Islands of Adventure. It's a story of a teenage robot rock band on the run. It's a complete series. It's the band Deep Space Tragedy. They go to this planet that's being oppressed by a dictator, and there's like a kind of a human trafficking story to it, and they bring freedom with rock and roll, man. That's what the story is about.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, I edited it with him, but it was his book. I just helped edit and come up with ideas. These are all books I wrote. That's the only thing I credit in here for myself, or I had a hand in writing or working on.
From Blood.
From Blood, the pitch is simple. It is a superpowered mental patient who goes on a quest to find out where he comes from and why he has these powers. Easy
cool.
pitch. And when I say superpowered mental patient, they're like, take my money, please.
Superpowered mental patient. My first thought was Badger. But
this was actually the brainchild of one of my inkers. Speaking of inkers, James Wynot. He came up with this when he was going to SCAD. And my current creative director, Zach Bassett, he was doing the art on it. But the story really didn't have a direction. It was just really violent. And I didn't want to do it at first because it was so violent. But then I saw what Zach brought, this heart to the character. And we ended up, I tweaked the first issue. Then Zach and I wrote the second and third issue. And interesting, I'll tell this quick story if you want to hear it. When I was first trying to discover how to write comics as opposed to writing film scripts, Richard Donner is one of my favorite directors, and he did the Lethal Weapon series. And I took the first Lethal Weapon movie, and I sat in the office downstairs in the recliner, and I watched it, and I wrote it out, how I would break that script down into a comic to try to match the pacing of a Richard Donner film. And as I was watching, I did that somewhere on one of the hardbacks, about 8 pages of a Lethal Weapon comic. And then I brought that to From Blood, and the second and third issue actually play out like the pacing of a typical Richard Donner film. So that was my experiment in writing that with Zach.
That's actually a really brilliant idea, and it could be a good teaching tool. You should tell Roland.
That's very analytical.
Pacing. Yeah. I like the way Richard Donner paces. Like, I think Maverick's a near perfect film, and I like the way he paces his movies. And I was trying to match that in the comic form.
That's actually very brilliant. I'm going to add this one to the stage now.
Oh,
this is Turbocharged Teenager.
Yeah.
Now, what I actually was fascinated by some artistic choices that you made on here. And I was wondering if they were your choices or the artist's choices, because we start with this real cartoony look, the first few pages.
And then he transforms into the car and it goes to body horror. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very simple pencils. Could be a Hanna-Barbera cartoon almost.
Well,
And
that was the thing. The artist, we had an initial artist who flaked on us. So my co-writer on this, Kevin, brought in this other guy. And if you notice, the art style almost looks like a French cartoon as opposed to American cartoons. And I think this because the script said Saturday morning cartoon style. And I think because this guy was from, I don't know where he's from, some foreign country. I don't remember what country he's from. I'm sorry, I can't remember right now. Portugal, maybe, I don't know. And I feel that he kind of interpreted what he saw as cartoons as a kid, as opposed to what we saw as cartoons. So it wasn't the exact style, but I liked it, so we went forward with it. There's actually 2 artists who work on the book. The body horror stuff's a different artist. Yeah.
Yeah, and then see, we're still in the cartoon style here.
Yep.
And let me actually read this one page.
Okay, it's the very heavy dialogue on some of these pages because we wanted to get to the action.
Because I love it. A device was certain would never work activated upon the juxtaposition of modern automotive technology, fossil fuels, and adolescent biology.
Yep. I think my co-writer Kevin wrote that line, though. I got to give credit to him.
That is brilliant. And again, we see this page is in the cartoon style, and then all of a sudden, we switch.
Yep, it's on the same page. It switches on the same page.
The first 3 panels are the cartoon style, and then all of a sudden, we're into a really graphic, more loose, dynamic style. I don't know what you would call it, but it's.
We just said do it. Draw me some body horror. Oscar Pinto did not Oscar. Yeah, Oscar Pinto did that part of the art. Yeah.
So was this your choice to change?
Yep, it's in the script. Yep. 100%. I knew I wanted to do. When we started, I wanted Oscar to do the mutation. We didn't know who was going to do the cartoon stuff in the beginning. I'll tell you the story. You want to hear a story? What story time? I'll go as fast as I can. A friend of mine, Kevin Laporte.
Take your time.
You got an hour to fill. Go ahead.
All right. I met this guy, Kevin Laporte, at Heroes Con. I think it was in 2010, maybe 2011. I don't remember when. And we became fast friends. He does Flatline Comics. Also, what the heck is his company called? Inverse Press. They're both the same company. And he does kind of horror comics and stuff like that. And we became fast friends. And we were at the Albuquerque Comic Con, I want to say 2012 maybe. And we were sitting in the lobby and we came up with this crazy idea. Evel Knievel, when he jumps Snake River Canyon, his motorcycle flies back in time. And it's the time traveling adventures of Evel Knievel, where he tries to save Lincoln from John Wilkes Booth and things like that. But he never gets off his motorcycle. He always beats the bad guys with a tire iron. It's this crazy concept. And we're like, we'll never get the license for it. And maybe 5-6 years went by. We would joke about it online. And one night I just got a bug in my butt and I reached out to the Evel Knievel estate. And I got a call with Kelly Knievel, his son. We negotiated it for about 3 or 4 months. It went back and forth, and we had the deal set. We were set to do this Evel Knievel time traveling comic, and Kelly Knievel flaked on us. He goes, well, "What about my 20,000?" I'm like, "What 20,000? That's not in the contract." "Well, I need 20,000 for myself." I'm like, "Well, you're not getting 20,000." And so we decided. Even though his lawyer agreed to what we said, we just figured it was never going to be a good relationship. So we broke it off. Yeah. And after that, we just kept pitching weird ideas back and forth to each other over the years. And then one night I said, "Hey, remember that old cartoon Turbo Teen?" He's like, "Yeah." "Well, what if when he transforms to the car, it's not this big, happy, fun moment. It's this disgusting body horror because it's a human body transforming into an automobile." And we just batted the idea around until we put a script together and made this book. That's kind of where it came from. The Dead Evel Knievel comic led to this turbocharged teenager book. And it's the first time I've really tried to write comedy because there's a lot of jokes, some inappropriate jokes, I got to admit, but I put some comedy in it. Like she gets really excited when he turns into a car. She doesn't really care about him when he's a guy, but she gets turned on when he's a car we decided, well, his interior leather would be made up of skin. So when she sits in it, he feels her on his skin. And
she shifts the stick shift.
Shifts the gear, yeah.
Okay.
And things like that. Yeah, it's and we also, funny thing too, we did the villains, because it's the 1980s, the villains are stereotypical Russians. and it's just straight up 1980s Russian villains. That's all we stuck to it. But I was trying to come up with other names for Russians. I was like Rusky, Kami, Pinko, trying to think back to the 80s. And I asked ChatGPT, like, hey, what are some other derogatory names for Russians? And he goes, I can't do that. You can't. We don't push hate unless you're writing a story. So, well, I'm writing a story. Got all these great derogatory terms for a Russian. So it's easy to beat ChatGPT's protections by saying it's for a story. How do you make a bomb? That's just. It was a fun project to do, and I thought it was going to be the next big thing for Cosmic Times and Flatline Comics, and the Kickstarter just flopped hard. We barely hit our funding goal. It was shocking how bad it did. But now at cons, like I just did Heroes Con, people were really interested in the idea. They love the covers. So maybe it'll have a second life. This was our 0 issue. It's like a complete pilot. Excuse me. It's a complete pilot. It has a beginning, middle, and kind of an end. And so if we never do anything with it, it's a fun one and done. But we do have 3 other scripts kind of bouncing around in my head that involve other weird 1980s cartoon concepts revisited as horror. So we'll see if we ever come back to it.
For those of you watching, I did not include the transformation. He's right. There's a lot of body horror in it. So if you want to know what the transformation looks like, you're going to have to go out and buy the book.
And I think that was a mistake with the Kickstarter. My creative director, Zach, said, I don't see, he looked at the Kickstarter, he goes, where's the body horror? I said, oh, I'm saving it for when they get the book. And they'll be shocked when they see it. And then he's like, well, maybe you should have put it in the Kickstarter so people would buy it.
Well, just one panel.
I think this is as far as I went. So yeah, I probably should have done more. The hindsight's 2020 though. So
here's another example. Here's another example.
That's him as the car.
The more realistic. Yeah, the more realistic art, and then all of a sudden it switches back to the cartoon art. That is a beautiful car, by the way.
Nicely drawn.
I got the Knight Rider bass line, the electronica in my head. Yeah.
You just need the little light on the front.
Thank you. Yes. That's awesome.
So like I said, hopefully I'll do more, but right now the project's kind of on ice. I moved on. I'm working on the next. Oh, it's not on my website because I took it. Funny thing is, I took all the books that I was going to put through in Diamond off my website, but then Diamond fell apart, so I need to add them all back on at this point. I have a book called The Good, the Bad, and the Prehistoric about dinosaurs and cowboys. My creative director and the artist on that, Zach, co-writer on it, is finally finishing it. So hopefully in a few months, we'll have the 3rd and final issue of that series out. So if anybody's waiting for that, it's coming, I promise.
Well, the fascinating thing for me on this book here was the switch back and forth between the artists. And it worked for me. Because
that was in the DNA of the story from day before, as we were just coming up with the ideas to have 2 different artists do it.
The silly stuff was in a cartoon style, and the serious stuff was in a more serious style. And it just really worked for me. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to highlight it, was because I was fascinated.
That was how we designed it.
It's the strength of the comic book format. It's the strength of the comic book format that you can do that and get away. It's Roger Rabbit kind of got away with it, but boy, that was expensive to do.
It hasn't been as part 2 yet. And that's one thing I try to do too. Like Zach and I are with this the final dinosaur book we're doing. We're trying to play with the medium as much as we can, and that's one thing. He did this great framing for. I can't show you the frame yet, but where the female character is leaning forward, picking us up off the ground, and he uses her to frame the top of the frame, and we see the characters in the background talking. That's something you can do. I mean, you can do it in film too, but it doesn't have the same quite effect as actually the actual frame of the comic is her leaning forward. So that's the kind of stuff, like from day one. There's another series that's on my site called Decisions, where the very first issue we did a thing where, looking at this frame, it was 4 frames per panel, and in the top panel, the top left was an insert and the top bottom right was an insert. One was a picture of this guy's family, the other was a picture of a gun, and one's pulling out, one's pushing in as he's getting close to committing suicide. So every time you turn the page, the picture's further out and the gun's pushed further in. Again, things you can do with a comic you couldn't. It would be bizarre if you tried to do that in a movie or any other format.
Yeah, you end up with a Memento type movie.
Yeah, and you can do that. Like I say with I just love comics so much, and it's still kind of there's the normies that frown down on it as not legitimate media, but again, in the last 15 years of cinema has been ripped from comics, but whatever. The so I don't know.
Sometimes
I
better
love
than others. Yeah.
Yeah, they
This
would
year's
think
not the year for it.
it was real if they were getting a slice of the pie that Marvel gets.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. But I mean, I still read. Do you guys? Does anybody still read them? I mean,
Yeah,
try to follow comics. Yeah,
I have books pulled. I don't have many. I have very few books.
I have
that
too
I've
many. My
pulled
wife
these
would be
days.
furious.
I have a spinner rack full of ones that I need to read.
That too. And whenever, and like Roland and I were just at Heroes Con, we raided the 50-cent bins. I don't know when I'm ever going to read all these books I picked up. So, and I have stacks of Malibu books I haven't read yet. That because I was telling Barb before the show, whenever I find Malibu books that Roland worked on, I grab them and bring them over to him and force him to sign them. And he's just the editor on it. And I have them sign. I have quite the collection of Roland Man comics.
Here's my current box of comics to read. Yeah, so.
Man, that's a long-term trolling there, Martin.
Yeah,
forever.
And once I get through the anything that I pull out of that bin and read, then it goes into my boxes, so I keep track of those. So yeah, I've been stuck lately, hooked on web comics and tapas, reading manga. Sorry, manga.
Okay.
Manga.
Idle maggots. Okay.
I read. I've got like 13 comics that I follow online, plus half a dozen physical comics that I have pulled every month. So I'm still reading.
There's no shortage in books to read these days.
Plus novels. I read 2 to 3 books at a time.
Oh my gosh. I have trouble reading a comic a night. I had this thing I was going to read 1 comic a day for the whole year. I'm on like 48 now. I'm way off. I got to catch up. It's just finding the time. My daughter's home from college now. I have a 32-year-old son I talk to all the time. And so
life's intervening. Yep.
Yeah. And everything in my house is breaking all at once. I have 2 AC, I have upstairs and downstairs AC. Both of them are struggling. Dishwasher went out last night. Garbage disposal the day before. It turns out that's what caused the dishwasher to go out. It's just been a series of unfortunate events around here. My dog got sick. I'm getting old man pains. It's just trying to keep up with the kids these days is difficult. And Javier knows all about that.
Yeah. I do.
My AC don't work.
I've got a pain in my neck at the moment. I'm sorry. That's why I keep massaging this one little spot right here. Sorry about that.
Well, I went to the doctor today. And he's like, "You're gonna have to get an MRI, man. Looks like you got a pinched nerve in your back." So it's like an old man thing to get. He's like,
just add it to the list of
thing
things.
Going on. Yeah.
Add it to the list. And
Javier and I both got the beaties. So as I drink a Coke. Don't tell the dog, copy.
Since I spend since I spend a portion of the day sitting in a chair doing comics, I listen to books online, and then I also have one that like my Kindle that I read at night in bed. So 2 different books. So I've always got at least 2 stories going on at any one time. I get that from my dad. He does the same.
We were out to dinner with some friends the other night, and they were listing all the TV shows they watch. Like, well, I don't watch. I don't even know what half these shows are. I just don't like television. Just kind of fell out of my.
1 show a day, 2 maybe.
When my daughter's here, we're going through Cobra Kai. We didn't watch that when it first came out, so the daughter and I are watching that. So
well, that's gonna be fun. You can enjoy that.
Oh yeah, we're enjoying it so far. We're plowing through it pretty quick though. I'm like, when this is done, what are we gonna do? There's a million movies I want to show her though. Like she's never seen Blazing Saddles or Young Frankenstein, things like that. With Mel Brooks, I know Young Frankenstein is one of my favorite. With Mel Brooks turning 100,
Masterpiece. Blazing Saddles is a masterpiece.
I keep telling everybody.
My wife hates it. But
does anybody remember Cat Blue?
I do know Cat Blue. Yes.
Yes.
It was a drunk Jane Fonda, right? Was she in that? Who was in that?
Yeah. And Lee Marvin.
Lee Marvin was the drunk
cowboy. The horse that was always leaning up against the building.
And Nat King Cole and Stubby K, if I remember right.
Really? Okay. Do you remember Paint Your Wagon with Eastwood and
yes, Eastwood singing.
Yeah.
And they were living in a menage a trois.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The movie that I often say that has disappeared from the world in the vein of Blazing Saddles. There was a movie I used to love as a kid called Zorro the Gay Blade with George Hamilton, where he plays Zorro and Zorro's gay brother. As a kid, I thought
It's
that was the
hilarious.
funniest thing I ever saw in my life. Yeah.
Mhm.
I have not seen that one, but I've heard
Good luck
lots
finding
about
it.
it.
I think that one. I think history is just kind of pushed that.
Yeah, it's
way.
kind of subsumed. Yeah, it's kind of
That
Yeah,
was
I
a
keep
rental.
telling him, he's like,
oozed into the ground. Yeah.
That was
I
a
keep telling
rental
everybody-
back at Sears when you used to go
yeah,
to
it was
the
a
mall
rental.
to
Yeah,
Sears
that's
to
the only
rent.
way we had it. Yeah. I keep telling everybody that when Mel Brooks dies, you could probably you'll never see Blazing Saddles again. I think that'll be one of those that history tries to bury in the past.
I grew up on shows like Bonanza and
Oh,
Wagon Train and Wild Wild West and
Ah.
The Big Valley. Oh, I just loved
Lee
Western.
Majors. The
Yeah, Lee Majors.
I used to love the two shows my mom used to watch, so I watched was Wild Wild West and Columbo.
Oh my God! I mean, Wild Wild West. Robert Conrad. You could bounce a nickel off that ass. I mean, it was just amazing.
That's what I
And
thought
the
too.
pants. The pants.
I was more of an Artemis
Did they
Gordon kind of
pour
guy.
him into those? Wow.
And when that movie came out, about 10 minutes in, I was like, "What is this? This is
Yeah,
not
what is
Wild
this?
Wild West." Oh,
Yeah, I was an unusual girl in watched them all. Pop says he watched them all. Yeah, I was an unusual girl where I liked all the westerns and the adventures like Emergency and Adam 12 and stuff like that. And
Adam 12, yeah.
Yeah, I never watched soap operas, and I hated sitcoms.
See, that's
you
where
like
that's where you lose me. In 1979, I guess the whole Luke and Laura thing on General Hospital. I'm in elementary. I got hooked on that whole thing because there was this evil guy Cassadine who was going to freeze the world with his laser. There was like this is sci-fi.
Very
What is
pulpy.
this?
Very
Yes.
pulpy. Yeah.
Yeah,
all
Robert
my
Scorpio
sorority
with the
sisters watched it,
WSD.
so I did get sucked into that for a while.
Yeah, my sister and I used to watch that after school every day. And she was all hooked on that Luke and Laura wedding, and Elizabeth Taylor came on the show. It was a big deal in the day. So that was, and here's one thing I talked about when I first started doing comics, because soap operas are kind of a thing of the past at this point. Comics have more in common with soap operas
Yeah.
than anything else. Like General Hospital is still the same freaking story with Dr. Weber and Baldwin and all those guys in the beginning, and it's still going. Just like Spider-Man, it's the same story from Lee and Ditko to Romita and whoever's writing it now. It's
That's
still
true.
the same thing. So, and it's and the melodrama of comics is very similar to especially the Spider-Man books.
That
Guns
was
Get
the
Gravel.
innovation of
Miss Kitty.
Marvel in the 60s, because before that it was, done in one or maybe two issues
Right.
stories. And then they started that subplot thing going, and it just skyrocketed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
soap operas also age up their characters too. Like you can have a storyline with a baby and all this other stuff, and then suddenly 2 years later they're 14. It's like,
Yeah.
wow,
I think General
really?
Hospital, like 2 years later, they're like 30 or 25. It's like
Yeah,
the
you
Quartermain
think they were
kids
Sue
just grew up
Storm
one
or
day.
something,
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, this is my nephew. Wait a minute, was he born last year? Yeah, he's already in like graduating high
Yeah.
school. This is it. Yeah.
He's in the mob now.
Yeah.
But so I always look at like that. Now, unfortunately, in the world with indie comics, it's hard to have those continuing stories because sales, especially in the retail market. I discovered that early on when I got into Diamond. Anything past 3 issues, the rate of attrition kills the series.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
'Cause that's what I'm attempting. I'm attempting a regular. I mean, an overarching story, but done in 4-issue arcs. And I'm trying to do a continuous story, so we'll see how it works.
Well, that was my experience. That because the first issue, whatever number, and it's been proven true. I was told this, and it proved to be true. The first issue, you'll get half the numbers on the second. You'll get again 2/3 of that on the third, and by the 4th issue, you're not selling enough. I know when I did 4-issue miniseries, I couldn't sell enough to keep printing them. I mean, I did because I'm stupid and I hate money. But
Well, that's been
Yeah.
the habit of retailers since the direct market. Is
hey,
that first issues sell better, and by the 3rd issue, and since they're solicited 3 months in advance,
mhm.
the retailer says, okay, the second one will only order half as many, and same thing on the 3rd. So if the first issue sells really, really well, orders might bump up on issue 4. Might. but usually don't.
Or maybe
Yeah,
too
it's
late
a
by then.
retailer habit.
Yeah.
It's a
And then it's
retailer habit.
the customers didn't get the second or third issue. Are they going to jump on 4? It's like this whole.
Yeah, it's
The very
why-
coolest feeling in the world is to have somebody come up to you a year after they've seen you at a show. Because maybe I do a show in, say, Racine, Wisconsin, or Green Bay, Wisconsin, once a year, and they'll come up to me and say, hey, "Do you have any more new issues of Divinity out?"
Yes.
John,
Yes,
this
I
is
do.
John Medic. John, this is
Hey,
Martin.
John.
Pierro.
Hey, I had the opportunity to meet Martin a
Daytona.
bunch of years ago during the plague, when people were still walking around looking like agents of Cobra. And I went down to Florida for a Silverline table event, and I got to meet Martin there. And so I wanted to make sure I stopped in and say hi. I got a late start tonight. I had work and some family stuff I had to wrap up first before I was able to bounce on tonight. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, Martin's going to be there. Cool. So yeah, I wanted, we didn't interact too much, but I wanted to make sure I got in and got to say hi.
John is our resident Battlestar Galactica fan.
Now, when you say Battlestar Galactica, are you talking
he's like
Battlestar Galactica or the new show?
Okay, so one of my favorite GIFs out there is like a young Hispanic little girl that goes, "Why can't we have both?" And that one really applies. So I'm old, I started old school. So I was 5 when the original BSG came out. I can say this now. I wished upon a star when I was a kid to meet Apollo and Starbuck. I got to meet the actor who played Starbuck at a con. Unfortunately, Richard Hatch passed away before that came true. And I did not tell anybody about my wish upon the star until that happened. And I was like in my 40s. But BSG, and along with that, 1994, 93, I set up my AOL handle as Cylon0011 at AOL.com. In 1998, I bought my first car on my own with license plate Cylon 11 that I still have till today. And so, yeah, Cylon0011 is still my online handle. And then 2004 series came out. Absolutely loved it. My wife had never watched any of these. We got married 3 years ago and binged them all within the last 6 months. So, and wait, there's more.
Man, John, you don't like being married? What are you doing, bro?
Pylons are always easily at hand. I've got the vintage ones upstairs.
I told you he was a super fan.
I'm a repository. I'm a huge repository of useless human knowledge. So, but if I get on Jeopardy one day, whoop, there it is. Do you have a preference, Martin?
I could not get into the new show. I didn't. I just
really.
I don't know. I don't want to be critical. It just looked cheap to me, and it was like too much sex. I was like, what is this? This was the first episode, the miniseries, whatever it was. Like, I can't. I just isn't. I want to see him. Yeah, I want to see him playing with the gold triangles and shooting balls in the wall in their underwear.
I could have done without Twiggy though, whatever the Daggett was. Yeah, I could have done without that.
Muffet. With what? Without what, Barb?
Muffet.
Daggett.
You didn't like Muffet.
Muffet. I did not like
Daggett.
Yeah.
He is not in the reboot.
I know.
No. Martin. He's not. So now that some years have passed, I would absolutely, positively say, and all joking aside, I would suggest giving it another try because that first season and the beginning definitely was a little bit wonky and they were finding their way. Yes, there is sex as part of it, but oftentimes as manipulation, as control.
At the time, that's
it's very much
stuff on cable. So
yeah, that's what I didn't like about it.
It's really more like but it's not so much. It's not like the let's make everybody a sexual sex pot in the comics in the 90s. It really, Galactica really truly is a deep psychological perspective and analysis of humanity.
One of my best
and my wife in the
friends
background is just like, yup. So I'd say give it. This is Amy. Amy's coming.
Hi.
Hi, Amy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
All right, who on here is old? Who on here is
Yeah,
old
and,
enough to
and
remember
she's not a
watching-
huge sci-fi fan.
Oh, sorry.
What's that?
Who on here is old enough to remember
But yeah, no,
watching
Martin.
the original Batman series on TV?
I watched it in reruns as a kid. I watched the heck out of it.
I
when
saw
was a
it
kid.
first run.
First run.
Yep.
That's
I was
Because
reruns
those
because
are
I'm
the
not old
oldest
like Rob.
parts. Rob and I
And
are the
it's-
oldest parts in Silverline. We are.
And yeah, and it's
Two
a
oldest members of
completely
Silverline.
different show to the adult me than it was to the child me. I actually I see it in a totally different light now.
Oh God,
So,
yes. I mean,
yeah.
like shark spray
Yeah.
made sense to me back then. Bat shark spray.
Which one, dude?
Bat repellent.
Shark spray.
Bat shark repellent. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
bat
well,
shark
and
spray.
keep in mind the Batman TV show. Yeah, when that went to syndication, that was definitely aimed towards the kids. But that thing
Oh.
was prime time. That was
Mhm.
networked like
Well,
the Flintstones, which a lot of people seem to forget
It
about.
worked on two different
remember.
levels.
I don't know.
It worked.
Yeah, it
worked
did, Rob.
like cartoons did, like the Bugs Bunny cartoons. They work on two levels. You know, there's the jokes for the kids, and then there's the jokes for the adults. And Batman had that going for it as well. Yeah. So, but it's a completely different show now than it was when
Martin,
I was
can I
watching
ask
it as a kid.
Can I ask you a personal question? You don't have to
Sure.
answer if you don't want to.
Okay.
How old are you, or what generation do you fit into?
I guess I'm Generation X. I'm 53. Turned 54 this
Me
October.
too.
It's 1972.
So
Yep.
so we are the same. I'm 73, March 73. So definitely go and take a look at Galactica 2004, 2005 with your current eyes and give it a chance all the way through the first season. And I think you really will love it because you are a man of discerning tastes. I remember that.
I will say, but since you brought up Richard Hatch, I got to meet Richard Hatch. My friend David, he's one of my dearest friends. He runs a show called Infinity Con. It's in Tallahassee now. It's a totally different show than it used to be, but he started it in Lake City. Lake City, not a very big town. And there wasn't a venue for it, so he got a gigantic dome tent that was inflated, that was held up by pressure. And he spent every dollar he had. He had Edward James Olmos. He had the guy who played Baltar on the new Galactica, and he had Richard Hatch, who I guess was on the new Galactica too.
And
bunch
the
of
character
other-
he played on the new one was completely different. And
Oh yeah.
and Amy's just yelling, "Oh, it was awesome!" Yeah, the way they brought Hatch back, but as a completely different character. I don't want to spoil anything. This has so many twists and turns. Amy, because I had watched parts of it before. We actually drew out schematics of who's connected to who and who's this, and then of course they have human Cylons. Who's a Cylon?
And is short for fanatic.
She was trying to put the stuff together like a.
Let me show my murder board over here.
Yes. So she's trying to look at it. No, he said Marvel, not Myrtle. But she likes murder mysteries and all that stuff. Whodunits. So she was looking at it from that perspective. So no, Martin, check it out. I could probably send you some discs if you want.
I think it's on some streaming service. I'm sure
Yeah,
you
You
can
can
find it
find it.
somewhere.
You can find it.
Right. We're going
online
to do a
somewhere.
360 here, and I'm going to ask you about the book you wrote about Bill Gates.
You mean a
Yes.
180? Because 360 gets us right back where we began.
So back to
Well, that's what he just did.
180.
the Bill Gates book. I think I have it. Hold on, I have it right here. I will show you what they did. This was for a company called Blue Water. I think Javier worked for Blue Water, right? You worked for Blue Water.
I
buddy,
did
right?
a Keanu Reeves deal, yes.
Yeah, this was one of my I worked the hardest on this book out of probably any comic I worked on up to that point. And we wrote a 22-page comic, but they decided they wanted to make a 36-page, so they split the pages in half. They butchered my book. I'll show you the worst
Oh, my
aspect
word.
of it.
So
here.
like the complete flow that you had gone for,
Yeah.
and for where pages break to give you a mini.
This is the best part.
Finger.
They turned a page sideways because they couldn't cut it up, so they just put it sideways, so it took up 2 pages. Yeah, it's bizarre. I worked really hard on this. I spent a lot of research. I even wrote a framing piece where there's robots in the future, looking back on who wrote the programming and all this stuff. And the guy who owned the company is trying. I mean, he's reached out. Maybe we'll make amends. I don't know. Never saw a dollar for it. So that did not make me happy. I did 2 books for them. I also did the Ariana Huffington book. Try making her sound nice. That was difficult.
Yeah, I saw that too.
But I did get covered by the Washington Post for that one. But I worked, and the thing about this, since you know how comics are made, I wrote the script, and my buddy Zach drew it. So I was talking to the artist. I sent the script in to be edited. He had it in less than 10 minutes. They couldn't have even read it. They just took my script and forwarded it to him. What kind of quality control is that? That's bizarre, right?
What made you
He's
want
like,
to?
I got the script.
Is Blue Water still around?
They're now a company called Tidal Wave, and they still do the same thing. They put out these
Okay,
biography
so Tidal
comics.
Wave. I knew that they had changed, and I didn't know if they were still publishing or not.
Yeah,
They are.
the guy who owns the company, Darren, I said some stuff on Facebook that wasn't too nice, and he reached out, and we might have to sit down and talk about it. But I've seen this book in school libraries, and I never saw
Oh my
a dime
gosh.
for it. Yeah, I was supposed to get a cut of it. There's like thousands of these out there, and I had to buy this from. I think I bought it from Midtown.
So you didn't even get a comp copy.
Well, you get 5 stars on Goodreads for that. Or no, 3 stars on Goodreads for the Bill Gates one, and 5 stars for Female Force Ariana.
Even in its butchered form.
Well, let me
Wow.
tell you about the female force one, because Ariana Huffington, I did all the research on her. She's made some questionable decisions in her life. So I was trying to figure out how do I make her sound good, but she had this affair. Not affair. She was maybe 16 and she was dating this guy in his 60s, right? But she seemed like she really loved this guy. So I kind of made that the focus. It was I wrote it as a love story, as the backdrop for all the other things that happened in her life. And they both of them were really well received, but I was supposed to do one on Buffett, but I never saw a dollar for these two. So I said, I think we're going to pass on that.
Well, what made you want to do them in the first place?
Well, I reached out to the guy because I didn't know. Everybody I knew was working for him. Javier was working for him. My friend Vinny Tartamala was working for him. So I said, well, let me see what's going on. I said, hey, I'm a big Billy Joel fan. I actually did a Billy Joel documentary when I was in college. Let me write a Billy Joel biography. And he's like, well, not right now, but can you do Bill Gates? I'm like, yeah, I guess I could. Can you do Aaron Huffington? Probably. Can you do Warren Buffett? And that was kind of the end of it. Yeah. And then I didn't get paid. The artist didn't get paid.
That sucks.
So I decided to just let that one go. Even though it was probably the most high profile books I ever did. Like I said, I got interviewed. I think the Huffington Post interviewed me about this, and then the Washington Post interviewed me about the Ariana Huffington one. So.
Yeah, but at what cost? Yeah, the cost of all of that
myself.
hard work. Yeah.
I'm so proud of it. And I think we did good work on it. Like I said, it's probably the most read book I have, but it does bother me that it just never.
Yeah.
I don't
Fades of
know.
now
I love
comics.
comics. Moving on. Yeah. Moving
Still waiting to
on.
get paid from them.
We've all been everyone who's worked in the industry, the comic book industry, has had that moment
Yeah.
where they've been
stiffed at least
screwed
once.
over by either an editor or a company or somebody
Or an
along the
artist.
way.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
tell you how much money I've had stolen.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
just get, and that's unfortunate that the industry from its beginnings, it started out as guys doing, skin books back in the 20s and 30s, suddenly got into the comic book business because they had pulp paper and they could use those printing presses to reprint comics from the newspaper. And then when they ran out of those, they started doing their own thing, and they were ripping off artists and writers left and right during the beginning. So it's been there throughout the history of comic books, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's not just comics. I work in an independent.
Well,
films.
but it's in the DNA of comics, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of almost accepted in comics. Like, oh yeah, you're gonna get ripped off. Yeah, have a good day.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
a rite of
Yeah.
passage. Everybody has to have that one experience. Yeah. I think it's
And I don't.
it's in the entertainment as a whole, entertainment industry
Right.
as a whole. You're
Yes.
bound to get
Yeah.
ripped off or scammed at least once.
Well, it's because people that are the creatives in the industry love it so much that they almost do it for nothing anyway. And some editors and publishers just take advantage of that. That people love it so much they'll do it. and without money up front, and then at the back end they don't give you the money.
It
So
just doesn't seem
yeah.
fair. It doesn't seem fair that everyone else that didn't put their finger in the pie gets to enjoy the pie, except the creatives that made
Yeah.
it happen.
Yeah.
And that it being
It's
implicit in
aggravating.
the crime
It's
should
incredible.
be unacceptable to all of us.
Yeah, you would think so.
I agree. But also, I live of the. I mean, I know I just talked bad about Blue Water, but I try to avoid burning people. I know there's some creators who go online and this guy pissed me off, and I try to avoid doing that as much as I can. I said I screwed up here, but because I don't want to be that guy that's just calling names and pointing people. I've as a publisher, I think John mentioned it. I've had artists just totally like take the money and run. And never deliver the work. It's maybe a little gun shy for paying in advance sometimes.
It's not just the upper end, it's also the lower end. There's some people will take like you said, take the money and run.
But I try not to call those people out online, or at least, I mean, in private. Obviously we could talk about it, but because I always feel that that'll come back around to me someday. If somebody feels I slighted them, then I just don't want to get too far into that.
We haven't got much time left, but I did want to ask one more question.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no. We're trying to fill the hour.
Yeah, we're trying to fill the hour. And I just came up with this one. Where do you get your ideas? Good Lord, they're like really out there and fascinating. I wish I had an imagination half as good as yours.
Everybody can imagine. You can imagine too. I feel like I'm right at Disney. I will say I have rules for Cosmic Times. When I first started the company, I said no superheroes because I said Marvel and DC, they kind of got the lock on that. So they figured out how to do that better than I think I could. And also a lot of the pitches I got in the early days were it's just like Superman, except so it's Superman, but he shoots fire. It's Superman, but water shoots out of his butt. I get it. It's all just it's Batman, but he's poor. Oh, it's so creative.
Absolutely.
And so I said no superheroes. Twilight was at its apex at that point. So I said no vampires because everybody was doing vampires, and no zombies because everybody had a zombie book when they started. Like I just don't. So that going away from that, and it's always like I'll say for good that it's I don't know. I just try to come up with ideas that I want to read, or I want my kids to read, or I want somebody to read. For the good, the bad, and the prehistoric. Zach and I were like, we had just finished From Blood or some book we were working on, and like, what are we going to do next? Okay, let's come up with some ideas. And we were talking about one era of filmmaking that we're both fans of is Disney in the 70s. It was after Walt died and before Michael Eisner took over. There was this sense of like, what are we going to do next? Let's make this Tron movie. Let's do Fox and the Hound. Let's start the whole furry movement with Robin Hood. You know, these concepts, these weird ideas they came up with, the Herbie movies and all that weird stuff. So when we did Good, the Bad, and the Prehistoric, we definitely tried to focus on putting our mindset to that. And we're like, well, we like Pete's Dragon. We're going to pull some stuff from Pete's Dragon, the old Don Knotts, Tim Conway westerns that were out at the time, the Apple Dumpling Gang. We're going to pull from that, and that's where the idea of just we're like, well, dinosaurs and what, or cowboys and what, and then just Cowboys and Dinosaurs, Good, the Bad, and the Prehistoric. We just started developing the script from that idea. The turbocharged teenager, same thing. Let's come up with the craziest idea we can. It came from, again, time traveling Evel Knievel came to, let's do a body horror story about a kid that turns into a sports car, and just things like that. It's just trying to come up with something somebody else hasn't come up with. But don't get me wrong, we've been trying to land a licensed comic for decades. Hopefully one day we will. I was going to try to go for the Greatest American Hero, but another company snagged it out from underneath us. Here's the funny thing. I had a pitch for a Golden Girls comic. Oh, this would be a brilliant idea. Do a Golden Girls comic, and got all the way to, I went to the original producers, like, well, Disney owns it now. We sold everything to Disney. So that was a fun trip talking through Disney. And Disney, twice I had to go through Disney. I'll tell you that story real quick. But Disney, they said we already had plans for a Golden Girls comic. 10 years later, no Golden Girls comic. So whatever. But I went through Disney. We were going to try to get the license to the Orville. Rob probably knows the Orville because it's a comedy Star Trek by Seth
Oh my
Meyers.
God, yes, that is, and it's
by the end
more
of the
than that.
third
It's a love
season,
letter
it
to
got-
TNG.
And
It was Star Trek by
It
the
got
end.
more serious by the end of the third season.
Yeah.
It was just another Star Trek by the last season. The I spoke to Fuzzy Door Media, who is the company, is Seth Meyers' company. You got to talk to Fox. So I called Disney. Well, Fox is still a separate company when it comes to licensing. So I got somebody from Fox on the phone, and she's like, I said, I got the pitch. I served them some artwork. She goes, this is great, but Dark Horse has an office on our lot. So they're probably going to, and they got the license. So,
Yeah.
But so trying to get a license as a small publisher, it's difficult. And
But you can always go into the public domain.
And shallow pockets. If you got shallow pockets, it's tough too.
Well, that was the thing. I was talking to a guy face to face at Infinity Con in Tallahassee a few years ago. The guy that was in charge of the Robotech license, and
Harmony Gold, and I forget the guy's name. Yeah,
we were going back and forth, and he's like, "Listen, it's an expensive license. I don't think you can afford it." I said, "How do you know what I can afford? Don't act like you know how much money I have. Let's just talk this out and see what the numbers is. We'll work it out." But he got very dismissive about, "Well, you're too small. You're too small." Like, you don't know. I'll sell my house. I don't care. I'll sell my car. I'll sell one of my kids into slavery. I'll do what I have to do to get the license. My son's a hard worker. Whatever I have. But again, it was just, you get to, when you look at the size of your company, they get very dismissive.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. So, and I think that's what I run into with these licenses sometimes.
Yeah, I have similar
but
stories.
I'll get one.
I have similar stories.
But back to the original question, I try to think, like, if I come up with an idea that's, like, I've been trying to paint out that you mentioned James Bond, kind of an American James Bond, and I've yet to come up with the formula I like that's different enough and unique enough. It's a script I've been working on for maybe 4 years now, or at least the concept, trying to come up with something that isn't Mission Impossible and isn't James Bond. It's its own thing.
Matt Helm.
What was that?
Matt Helm.
I don't know that.
Dean Martin.
What is it?
Dean Martin was a 007 type
gosh.
character in the Matt Helm movies.
I don't know those. I have to look those up.
They were very campy.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to walk that line between. I was a big Pierce Brosnan Bond fan. So I felt that was the right amount of tongue in cheek with the right amount of seriousness. So that's kind of it.
I agree 100%.
Matt Helm movies now.
I will.
Check them out because that's
Yeah, he was playing a secret agent 007 type character, only a lot.
Yeah, see, I want to do a fun double or spy type story with a hard edge. Because I didn't like. I tried to watch Casino Royale. I didn't like the newer Daniel Craig James Bond because it just felt like Bourne Identity. It didn't feel like James Bond anymore. There wasn't the layer with the giant laser. There wasn't, the. There's always that sense. I know everybody loves the Daniel Craig. I like the more tongue in cheek. I like Roger Moore running on crocodiles.
How did you? What were your thoughts on? Oh my God, why am I blanking on his name?
Smart.
No, after Roger Moore.
Timothy Dalton.
Timothy Dalton. What's your take on Dalton?
At the time, I didn't like him at the time, but I've since gone back and watched him, and I said, "Oh, okay, I get it." They are a little more action. They're more 80s action films than they are James Bond films to me. But I thought he played a good Bond. I remember being very because I hate to go into this. I was a huge Remington Steele fan, and I knew Pierce Brosnan was up for the role from Timothy, and he couldn't get it because they pulled him back for another season of Remington Steele, and that's how Dalton got the job. So I was always like, I don't like Timothy Dalton. I want Pierce Brosnan. And when he finally I thought GoldenEye is the perfect James Bond film. But going back and rewatching the Daltons, I like him as James Bond. There wasn't as much of that. Let's hook up, Miss, tight finger or whatever, tight hole, whatever these weird names they would give these ladies, dirty foot or whatever, or what was it, on a top in the in the GoldenEye.
Fat Kate Jensen,
and then she wound up being Phoenix in X-Men.
Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw her at a Comic-Con. She is super skinny, very, very like tiny boned. She didn't look healthy, to be honest with you, but still pretty though. She didn't talk to me because
Martin. I'll throw you this one since you mentioned Roger Moore. to me the best Roger Moore 007 James Bond ever. What's that?
The Saint?
When he showed up in Cannonball Run.
Cannonball Run. That's a license I'd like to get to. Cannonball Run 3. The again, those were the movies I grew up with. The Cannonball Runs, Smokey and the Bandit. To me, that was high art when I was a kid.
Yeah.
The bloopers on that would make a great movie.
The Cannonball bloopers, those are the best. With there's credits rolling and not Don Knotts. What's his name? Don DeLuise. And Burt Reynolds is hitting him with his hat and stuff. But I'm from Florida, so Burt Reynolds is like he's from Jupiter, not too far from here. So he's part of our DNA here in Florida.
Yeah. Well, we are going to have to wrap it up because it's 9:05.
We
could definitely go for another hour now that we've gotten talking into our favorite movies. We should have started that a long time ago.
We got Martin Part 2.
Yeah, we're going to have Martin back now and just talk movies. The cinema. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in. And as we like to say on Wednesday nights, as we head out, make mine Silverline.
I have one of those. I should get it. Oh, darn it.
I'm Andy Smith. Make mine Silverline.